So the next thing that's going to happen with this car is it's going to get an all-wheel drive swap. First thing I got to do is drop out the stock tank and put in a fuel cell into the trunk. Let's get on it. Look at this. Well, the owner had it parked in his apartment. Some ne'er-do-well hooligan sons of bitches tried to steal it. They actually basically pried this out to get the door open. And for a long time, the door wouldn't open. It was non-functional. Or you could open it, but you had to crawl in from the other side to open it from the inside. So I was able to bend this back out mostly. I mean, it's still pretty bad, but just a rod in there, and it now works correctly, but needs lots of body work. Same on the other side too. That's the sucky part, both sides. That's the tank out. Yeah, in case you've never seen it without a tank in there. So the diff will sit basically right under here. It'll lose some ground clearance, I'm sure. I'll put an adapter on here to adapt the fuel lines from the fuel cell. I'll probably have drill some holes right here, some bulkhead fittings for the feed and return lines. So I've already done R&D for the all-wheel drive swap on this black car, but this thing's two-wheel steering. So I kind of got it figured out for two-wheel steering. Red car's the test car for the four-wheel steering. So right now I'm just going to transfer. Well, the main thing I need to transfer is the knuckles onto the red car, but there's also upgrades on this car that I'm not going to use anyway, so I'm just going to put those on the red car as well. We got braided lines, poly bushings. You can see, yeah, these are the CRV axles, rear axles, and it's got the bottom mount from the front damper for the case port, and just the front fork basically, and it all fits up. So right now, instead of the axle, we're using these stubs. So I get the diff mounted, figure out the axle situation. For the fuel feed, this is pretty much how it's going to go. Got the pre-filter, the pump, and a post-filter. And this will actually, having this filter here will actually allow me to get rid of the one in the engine bay. Clean that up a little bit. And to hook into the factory hardline, I cut this off the factory setup, and I'm going to cut it off here again and weld this on. Here's the fitting welded onto the stock piece. Alright, here it is mocked up. Right now it's just zip tied up for now. That's where it goes into the trunk. Now what I'm gonna do, once I have it all put together fully and pressure tested, is I'm gonna make a mount. Let's get the light. I'll make a mount for this, and it's gonna be some kind of substantial. It comes under the whole fuel system, because eventually we're gonna have an axle in here, and just in case we have a breakage, we don't want it flying up and hitting the fuel system. So there'll be something to protect it. Here's a return line. The feed. This is the vent line. This is about where the diff is going to live. Let's see. So, I don't know if I can get the camera up good, but there's a vent line on top of the diff that needs to be bent kind of out of the way, just so it'll clear the shaft enough to put a tube on it. And the tightest spot is right there, where that dust boot on the steering shaft is. Also, right there will be pretty close. I might either grind that down or just move it forward, the whole thing forward a hair. But I really want it as far back as possible, because if you look at the angle of the axles, they don't bind or anything, but less is better. That's the mount done for now. It might get adjustments later, but this is pretty much how it's going to be. There were already drain plugs here, so I just made a plate that goes on the other side with a nut welded on it. So you just pop out the plugs. Yeah, I made this curve so this will be lower than this, than the diff itself. So it'll give it some protection from from bottoming out on the diff itself. Alright, I dropped the engine and put the all-wheel drive trans on. So the driver's side mount, or left side mount, is doesn't need to be modified. The rear needs a bunch of modifications down there. The trans mount, I had to make it brand new from scratch because the other stock B Series 1 it's way off. And the front mount, because the starter on the all-wheel drive trans is in the front, it needs some clearancing, but otherwise it's the same. Alright, I'm going to be installing front shocks on the rear, because with the front lower mount and the front fork, this is screwed like all the way up, so it's basically as low as it will go without breaking the preload, and the rear of the car is still jacked up like this, so we're going to try the shorter front shocks in the rear. Let's see if that helps. Yeah, here's with the front shock installed, and both of these are at their lowest setting without breaking the preload. That's a big difference. Alright, here's the fuel system shield. I used aluminum for this. It's pretty sturdy. I think it'll take some hits. Hopefully it won't come to that. I think that's it for this video. As you can see, I got the custom-made drive shaft back, and it fits. Now, in the next video, I'll be making a mount for the carrier. So right now it's just sitting loose. And I'll be doing the exhaust, which will be running above it. So it'll be kind of tight. I also need to modify the downpipe of the header to have like a little S-bend around the transfer case.